When I was 16 years old, I was hanging out with God, and He had always been the one that I hung out with because I had a really tough time since I was very, very young, belonging anywhere in this world or fitting in with anybody in this world. And so I found the presence of God young as a place of refuge, as a place of escape, as a place of safety, as a place of cleansing, healing, loving, empowering, and strengthening. It was my best friend is God. So when I was 16, I was thinking about hanging out with him. I was thinking about stuff, and I asked him, I said, what's up with this hell thing? How can you be the being that I know you are? You're pure love. You're so amazing. I have nothing but a good time when I spend time with you. So how can you send anybody to hell? I don't get that. And this is what he said to me, word for word. He said, if following me was the wrong way and it meant you go to hell, would you still follow me? I sat back. I didn't know how to answer that at first. And then I realized what he was asking. And I said, yeah, I would still follow you. Because I don't want to be in heaven if you're not there. And if you're in hell, I'd rather be there with you. And I realized I didn't care about getting to heaven. And I didn't care about getting out of hell. I just wanted to be with him. And then years later, I started learning theology, trying to study the Bible and go to Bible school. And I was going to go into ministry and work in the church. And then I studied theology for a year, and all of a sudden, I couldn't find God's presence for the first time in my life. And it took me a few years to even adjust. I started on medication over it, all kinds of stuff. I started battling with mental health. All kinds of things began happening as a result of wrong thinking, thoughts that were implanted in my mind about God and about life and about the afterlife and everything that were not being verified and could not be validated by any of my personal experiences with God up until that point. But instead of being confident in what I knew of God, I chose to be insecure and allowed everyone else that was teaching me these things to be right and my experiences to be wrong. But then I found out after 2 decades as an adult and thinking that way, I found that everyone I was honoring and respecting for their knowledge being more than mine didn't know God, hadn't spent their life hanging out with him, only knew him through religious filters, understood God only through the things that they had been taught of him, and they knew nothing and were still trying to figure it out. And I realized everybody was doing that. And everyone was offering each other information about God that they didn't even know. And it made me wonder, still makes me wonder, how many of us actually know God? And then I realized that's the problem. That's why the Messiah that came to save the world, the promise of the Messiah is that when he comes, the knowledge of God will cover the earth as the waters cover the sea. So the point is right now, you guys don't know God. And maybe I don't either, because I've been listening to a bunch of BS for a long time too. So I think what we all should do is shut up, stop telling each other what we think about God, stop telling God what we think about God, stop freaking out, and give God the stage in our lives. Maybe we should just get up every day and make God the most important pursuit of our day instead of money, the news, our family members. Maybe we just need to pretend for a minute that God's real and he's actually in the room and he really lives in your body and he really wants you to be happy and at home and full of life in this world. And you are his home, his image bearer, the picture of God in creation. That's you. But we'll never get there, not individually or as a people. And there's connected. That those two are connected. Individual and collective is connected. And we're not going to get where we need to get and where we want to get until all of us start pursuing God the same way that the prophets and the messengers and the masters in every culture have modeled for us for thousands of years. They ignored the devil's kingdom. They ignored the ways of the world. They set their feet upon the path of God. They set their eyes upon the beloved, and they pursued God, which was their goal, to become like him, to seek him, and to know him. For that is the purpose of the human soul, is to know God. And it's not made to happen through other people, through a priest, through a church. It's supposed to happen through the mechanism of your soul, looking into him. It's made to find him. You won't fail to find him if you seek him. Keep seeking until you do. I promise it's going to happen, but we have to give our attention to him and to him alone. And in that place, we draw from it mercy, grace, and love. And then we feel the life that we're living around us, becoming his eyes, his ears, his hands, and his feet. We fill the world with the knowledge of God, which is the love of God, which is the goodness of God, and it's the mercy of God, and it's the grace of God. All of that, which brings us into repentance. Yet, if we ignore all of that and do not come into the fellowship of that wonderful light, and we choose to ignore it and stay in this ignorance and this arrogance of the ego and remain in ourselves instead of loving him more than ourselves, then we'll absolutely stay stuck for I don't know how long that can go on. It could probably go on for eternity. Thus all of the parables about eternal hell. So stay out of it. Now, let's all find the mercies of God today. Give them to each other, and let's wash this world with mercy and grace, coming from a place filled with love, for we have a faith that is born of love, not fear. Perfect love casts out all fear today. So be made perfect in love, so you have no reason to fear. Become love. I love you all. Bye.